Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're continuing reading Princess Katie and the Silver Pony. In this video, I'll be reading chapters 3 to 4, and if you'd like to see how the story ends, please do subscribe to my channel and look out for my future videos. Thank you very much for your support, and let's begin the story. Chapter 3. Nothing happened. There was no sign of any magic. Fairy G went back to her desk and sorted through the pieces of paper. She said. Very creative. And now for your tiara points. We all sat up sharply. Tiara points? That's right. Fairy G gave us an odd kind of smile. Queen Gloriana has asked me to give 100 tiara points to the princess who has asked for the most thoughtful and unselfish wish. I could feel my eyes popping out of my head. 100 points? That would mean... Exactly. Fairy G knew what I was thinking. Me and every other princess in the class. 100 points will earn you a place in the seashell coach. But it's not fair! Princess Eglantine was bright red in the face. She was a friend of Perfetta's. At least, she was when Perfetta allowed her to be. That's so not fair! I'd never have wished for curly blonde hair if I'd known that. Have I told you that Fairy G is big? Well, when Eglantine said that, she grew enormous. And she looked so scary, I would have dived under the table if I hadn't been too frightened to move. Princess Eglantine, Fairy G roared. You will take 20 minus tiara points. No princess worthy of the name should ever speak the way you have just spoken. Eglantine cowered in her seat and whispered, Sorry, Fairy G. Fairy G still looked angry, but she shrank back to her usual size. Let me remind you all that a perfect princess should not ever need to be told to think of others before herself. I began to feel nervous. What would Fairy G think about our silver ponies? Would she give us minus tiara points too? No, Fairy G said firmly. It's time to announce the winner. Are you ready? We sat up, folded our hands in our laps, and nodded. I could feel my heart pitter-pattering in my chest, even though I knew I couldn't possibly win. And the winner is... Fairy G stopped for a dramatic pause. We held our breaths. And the winner is... Princess Perfetta! There was a long silence. I could see Perfetta smiling a cat that's got the cream-tart smile. Princess Perfetta, please read your winning wish out to the class, Fairy G said, handing Perfetta back a piece of paper. Perfetta stood up. I wish not for a perfect face, but truthful heart and perfect grace, she said in a sing-song voice. Beside me, Alice gasped loudly. What is it? I whispered. She's a cheat, she hissed. Silence! Boomed Fairy G. But it was so odd. She gave Alice a sly little wink. And now, class dismissed. Your wishes will be waiting for you in the Great Hall, Fairy G went on. She smiled a huge smile at Perfetta. And I'm sure we all wish you well, Princess Perfetta. And do enjoy your wish. And you're right in the seashell coach. We scrambled out of the classroom. We tried hard to walk properly down the long corridor that led to the grand hall, but at the same time, we were dying to get there as fast as we could. Would there really be 6 silver ponies waiting for us? I couldn't wait. As we scooted along, Alice was positively exploding with rage. Perfetta so cheated, she said. That was my sister's wish last year. Why on earth didn't Fairy G say something? I was remembering Fairy G's little wink. I think Fairy G's up to something, I said, and then we were at the door of the great hall. It was amazing! Chapter 4. You know when it's a sunny day and little golden sparkles of dust float in the sunbeams? Well, the hall was full of sparkles just like that, only much, much sparklier. Most of our class were already there, and we could see princesses spinning round and round in fantastic ball gowns or dancing like ballerinas. Lisa and Jemima were singing like nightingales. Nancy was walking up and down on stilts. Freya was stroking a fluffy kitten. It was so incredible. Up at the far end, Queen Gloriana was talking to Fairy G and some of the other teachers. Eglantine, Florine, and Perfetta were in front of us. As each of them walked through the door, they changed. Eglantine suddenly had heaps and heaps of long golden curls, and as Florine pushed her out of the way, I could see her eyes shining. Then Florine was in amongst the sparkles, and omp! She was wearing the highest high-heeled shoes ever, and they were covered in glittering jewels, and she wasn't wobbling even the tiniest bit as she walked. Perfetta was next. She turned to look at us just before she walked in, and she said in her nastiest voice, "Oh, it's the rose rumors. If you're very lucky, I might wave to you from the seashell coach." Then she walked into the great hall. But nothing seemed to happen, except she made a funny kind of ooh sound and sat down hard on the floor. Alice, Charlotte, Sophia, Emily, Daisy, and I were too excited to take much notice. We took a deep breath and ran into the great hall together. Whoop! 6 gorgeous silver ponies were trotting round and round the hall, shaking their silver manes and tails and whining loudly. They were so beautiful. But Florrie gave a massive screech, and Lisa screamed. The ponies flung up their heads and began to gallop. "Quick," I said. "They're scared. Poor things. We've got to catch them." Which was easier said than done. Now I know, and I'm sure you do too, that the very worst way to try and catch a pony is to rush around making lots of noises. We know it, but it looked as if absolutely none of my classmates did. Freya whistled at them. Florine went on screeching. Jemima tried to rush them into a corner. And then Nancy fell off her stilts with a dreadful clatter that sent those poor ponies into a perfect frenzy. They began to gallop this way and that, looking for a way out. But do you know what? Even though they were horribly frightened, they were really careful not to crash into anyone. They swerved this way and that, and sometimes they pirouetted on one silver hoof, and their manes and tails streamed behind them. "Stop this at once!" Queen Gloriana was furious. Everyone froze, even the ponies. The whole great hall was as still and silent as if we'd all been turned to stone. "Who is responsible for this ridiculous state of affairs?" Our head teacher's voice was as cold as ice, and I felt totally terrible. I just wished and wished the floor would open up and swallow me, but I also knew I had to own up. My knees were like jelly as I croaked. "It was me, Your Majesty." "Princess Katie, I am deeply disappointed in you," Queen Gloriana snapped, and her eyes were positively flashing. I hung my head. "This is the most shocking..." But she was interrupted. Princess Perfetta walked calmly up to her headmistress, sank into a deep curtsy,
and spoke in a grown-up voice we never ever heard her use before. "If you please, Your Majesty, the fault was not intentional. Our beloved Princess Katie meant no harm. Her wish was for the good of the school, and if Your Majesty will be gracious enough to permit me, I will explain."